Exactly. You do have one chapter in an ebook. Do you call it a chapter?
Fair enough.
On I was a pistol.
Yes.
I'm assuming that means I was a sex pistol.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I don't feel
yeah.
like one anymore. And some of that is physical.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, if you get into ED, as you know, they call it erectile dysfunction, there can be a lot of issues. No question about it. You know, some of it can be aging. I mean, you aren't like you were when you were 20 or 25, but you know, you're supposed to be like that because you. I mean, we watch sort of the common currency. You know, what we're supposed to be, and the reality is most of us slow down. The reality is by middle age, certain significant people, they don't react in the same way. So they feel something's very wrong with them, and it's important if things are changing in a significant way, you can get an evaluation. And I think, as you're aware, we've had the introduction of the potency pills, which I think they can make a difference, especially if there's no significant organic factor in it. And I think they can, I mean, you see the ads, you know, the guy's late for the card game.
Yes.
He doesn't get, because the boys are waiting for him, and meanwhile he's got his own particular agenda. He's playing cards with his wife. Sure. But it's a more interesting,
because there's more to the story.
It's a more interesting, sexy game. So I think those pills, you know, I think they've added something, and I, as a physician, certainly have prescribed them. As a psychiatrist, I mean, years ago, you sit in analysis worrying about your relationship with your mother for 5 years, you know, and why you aren't, quotations, as active. The reality is, you know, you can save people 5 years of analysis.
Take a little stock and good morning, good morning. Right. It all works. However, the joke is obviously some of the wives say, whatever you do, don't give my husband that.
Absolutely.
No more good morning, good morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not necessarily so, but a good joke.
Sure.
So in your therapeutic sanctuary, somebody comes to you, female, being abused, lived with an abusive man, and you write about this, all of her life. Tolerated it, kids gone. Where do you start?
Well, first of all, let me give you a bit of my background briefly. You know, part of my sort of subspecialty work has been forensic psychiatry. I did the seminal work as a psychiatrist in battered women who've acted in self-defense, killed. The work, it went on to be cited by the Supreme Court. You know, we get into patterns. And the thing is, if someone's brave enough to you know, see someone like myself and gives you a history of abuse, physical and psychological, I mean, a number of issues. If I'm concerned about safety on one level, I really push that. You know, I'm really concerned. I will break the confidentiality, and I would call you know, the gendarmes. But mostly, it's an issue of trying to allow people to recognize what they're in. You know, and I'm a very hands-on sort of guy. I mean, like Dr. Phil, he's in your face, but nice. And that's my style. And I try to give people an understanding. But it's not an issue of sitting there in analysis for 3 or 4 years because, you know, your dad was an alkie and your mother wasn't very, and the predisposure, your self-esteem and all those sort of issues. The thing is, you try to emphasize the cycle and you promote their getting out. And you act as sort of a, you know, the good parent, the guide. You hopefully develop a relationship that, you know, change in psychiatry is mediated through the relationship, the empathy, developing rapport. And some people are tougher to move along with checks because some people have more psychological reflectiveness, resilience, and others are, whoa. Get me a, you know, get me a chain to pull.
Well, and some women would never tolerate it. Other women at every level would tolerate it, and they love the man. In spite of it all, they say they do, or they think they do. Somebody, you know,
well,
hit you in the nose.
It's sort of distorted. I don't know what your perception of love is, but I wouldn't want.
I know.
But you forget that my daughter were in a situation like that. I'd open the door, and this is what I tell my, you know, the parents of kids, and I've been through that. I said, you go down there now, and et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. Totally agree with it. But in middle age, your children are gone. You've lived this with this man for a long time. Perhaps you don't have other options, or you think you don't have other options. Everybody has other options.
You got it. You're right.
And do you find that some people in middle age, some women particularly who've lived with abusive men, finally leave?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. Some of them will leave spontaneously. You know, you get to a point and you get out. At other times, people will stay. I mean, I have been a witness in, you know, about 40 cases across this country of women who've killed in the United States. And these women didn't leave. And then, you know, the abuse gets to a point where they feel they're going to die.
Sure, and you'd have to ask the question, what is the upside? The other thing that happens in middle age is we have a little more time to reflect, and you point that out when in one family, one couple you were talking to, one of their kids said, I'm gay.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Right.
And they had a horrific reaction to that.
Yes, yes, yeah. Well, I think...
Not in my family.
Yeah, okay, there you go. I mean, we obviously come to our situations of life with our own narrative and our own history as parents. And sometimes you have parents who, and I've seen both sides of the coin, who are they love their child. And their child's choices are, you know, they respect them. I mean, most of us grow up, though, with a heterosexual orientation. And so the parent has to get over a sense somehow they failed the child, you know, as role models. And that's stuff you've got to work with. And then some, I mean, I've seen individuals in my practice who have a private life and they're already 35 or 40, and mom knows and says, don't tell dad. And they're living with somebody on the side.
Don't tell dad, he'll never get it.
And they never meet the significant other. So I think when parents have come to me, I really get, you know, I try to have them, where does this come from? And really promote sort of, you love your kid, you got to stop the poo.
When you talk to people who are into some type of midlife meltdown, is much of it about simple disappointment? I didn't do this, I always said I would. I wanted to be a ballerina, never went there. I thought I would be Elton John, never got there.
Regrets,
I do not, I'm just in a numbed existence. I don't know where the excitement is going to be in the next passage.
Sure. Absolutely, we reflect at all periods of our life, of course, and you look, you know, what could have been, what should have been, and reflection is, I think, is important. You know, as I was watching Deepak Chopra the other night, and he was, you know, he's talking about, you know, we're always changing. I mean, he uses the term we die, and I'm not so sure how he comes to that, but he operates on a different plane than most of us. But having said that, I think that, you know, in a sense, we are reborn. And again, the ability to change I think, depends upon how resilient we are, psychologically minded, and the pressures we live with as well, and where we come from.
My granny used to say, do something that scares you every day.
Risk.
Just do it.
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Yeah, we only come around once, so the rumor
every
goes.
day.
Yeah. So
every day.
Yeah, well.
That's a big job.
No kidding.
And keeping your cool. Through your midlife meltdown, ebook, and get it online, and the pictures are by...
Yeah, Chris Chuckery, who's a wonderful artist who actually did he was involved in the work with Obama and Spider-Man, and he's the artist for my graphic.
Oh,
he's a
great.
wonderful
You
artist.
talked him into that, eh?
Well, I gave him the dance. We both come from Winnipeg. You know, grew up in the same area. So it's Chris, it's me.
It's me. And
sometimes it works, it doesn't work.
Sometimes it doesn't.
He liked the idea.
I thank you.
My pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Okay,
Dr. Fred Shane. He's a psychiatrist, 30-some years.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Thank you. You're right.